Welcome to Global Trade for Beginners. The dearth of information in global trade has kept most people away from it. Some have attempted to venture but got their fingers burnt. On Global Trade for Beginners, we bring to you short courses that allow you to tackle international trade knowledgeably. If you follow the instructions in this course, you are sure to come out equipped to make well informed decisions on your international trade transactions. Hello, my name is Adito Kumbadewani and I'm an export consultant at Fortress 20 Global Limited. Welcome to the third part of Basic Exports for Policymakers. In the second part, we covered the overview of the laws and regulations governing exports both locally and internationally, the importance of compliance with export documentation, key export documents, and the role of customs and trade authorities in export transactions. In this third part, we'll be talking about supporting exporters and we will cover policies to support exporters, including financial assistance and training programs, the importance of trade agreements and partnerships, common barriers to exporting, including regulatory, logistical, and financial, and strategies to overcome the common barriers to exporting. Let's get right into it. Policies are designed to support exporters. The policies that have been designed to support exporters generally focus on offering a range of financial assistance and capacity building initiatives to strengthen the exporters' ability to compete in the international markets, and this in turn will expand their global reach. The financial support may come in the form of export credits, low interest loans, grants, subsidies, or guarantees, and this helps the businesses reduce the risk associated with international trade and manage export related costs effectively. In addition to financial aid, capacity building programs play a key role in preparing exporters for success. These initiatives may include specialized training, workshops, mentorship programs, advisory services, and educational resources aimed at improving the exporter's knowledge of international trade regulations, trade agreements, market entry strategies, logistics, and compliance requirements. As mentioned earlier, one of the ways to support exporters is through financial assistance. This can come in the form of export credit and guarantees by offering low interest loans, credit guarantees, and insurance to reduce financial risk for exporters, or through grants and subsidies by providing grants or subsidies to cover export related expenses such as market entry costs, compliance, certification, or trade fair participation. Another way to support exporters is through training programs, and this can be in form of export readiness training by offering workshops and courses to improve the exporters' understanding of international trade regulations, market trends, and logistics, or through mentorship and advisory services, which involves connecting new exporters with experienced mentors or trade experts to provide tailored advice and guidance to the exporters. Now, let's talk about trade agreements and partnerships and how these help exporters thrive in international trade. Trade agreements and partnerships are crucial in creating an enabling environment for international trade because they establish clear rules and they reduce barriers between countries. Trade agreements and partnerships provide significant advantages to exporters and would explore these benefits in detail over the next few slides. The first benefit of trade agreements and partnerships is reduced trade barriers. Trade agreements lower or totally eliminate tariffs, quotas, and other trade restrictions. And this makes it easier and more cost effective for exporters to access foreign markets. The second benefit is increased market access. Partnerships open up new markets for exporters, allowing businesses to expand their customer base and increase sales internationally. The third benefit is legal and regulatory certainty. Trade agreements provide a framework that ensures consistent and transparent rules, which reduce the risk of unexpected changes in regulation and fosters a stable trading environment. The fourth benefit is enhanced competitiveness. By fostering collaboration between countries, trade agreements encourage innovation, efficiency, and improved product quality, helping businesses to stay competitive globally. The fifth benefit is the facilitation of trade. Trade partnerships streamline customs procedures, simplify export documentation, and improve logistics. This reduces the time and the cost for exporters. Overall, trade agreements and partnerships foster cooperation, they promote economic growth, and they create a favorable environment for businesses to thrive in the global market. Next, let's take a look at the common barriers to exporting. Barriers to exporting exist due to differences in regulations, in tariffs, in cultural practices, in economic policies, and logistical challenges between countries, and these can complicate cross border trade. Exporters often face various challenges that can hinder their ability to access and even succeed in the international markets. Some of these common barriers to exporting include: one, the regulatory and compliance issues. These include complex regulations which exporters must navigate, the different rules, standards, and regulations in each country, such as product certifications, labeling, and environmental requirements. And customs procedures, which are lengthy or complex custom processes that can cause delays, they can increase costs and the time to market. The second barrier is tariff and trade barriers. This includes high tariffs. Import duties and high tariffs can make exported goods less competitive by increasing the final cost for foreign buyers. And non-tariff barriers. These are in form of quotas, restrictions, sanitary or phytosanitary standards, and this can create additional hurdles for exporters. Next barrier is the financial constraint, which is in form of access to finance. Most exporters have limited access to export financing, credit, or guarantees, and this can make it difficult for businesses to fund production and shipment for the international markets. This can also play out in foreign exchange fluctuations. Exchange rate volatility can affect pricing and profitability and lead to financial uncertainty. The fourth barrier is market knowledge and competition, which includes a lack of market information. Understanding the dynamics and consumer preferences and the regulations of foreign markets can be challenging without adequate data or local expertise. And strong competition. Exporters often face stiff competition from established players, especially in markets with high demand for similar products or services. The fifth barrier is logistics and transportation issues. This often manifests as high shipping costs. International shipping can be very costly, especially for smaller exporters, and rising fuel prices or shipping disruptions can cause further costs, like to make the cost higher. It also manifests in form of the global supply chain disruptions. Global supply chain issues, including the delays or the shortages of raw materials, can complicate production and delivery timelines. The sixth barrier is the cultural and language barrier. This takes the form of cultural differences. Exporters need to understand cultural preferences and local customs to effectively market their products and also manifest in the form of language barriers. Communication challenges can lead to misunderstanding in contracts, negotiations, and customer relations. The seventh barrier is the political and economic risk, which often manifests as political instability. Changes in government policies, sanctions, or political unrest in target markets can disrupt trade. It can also manifest as economic volatility. Economic downturn or crisis in target countries can reduce the demand for imported goods. And lastly, the eighth barrier is intellectual property protection. This manifests as IP risk, intellectual property risk. Exporters face the risk of intellectual property theft or counterfeit products in international markets, and this can erode their competitive advantage totally. Addressing these barriers requires careful planning, market research, and strong partnerships to mitigate the risk and improve the livelihood of success in global trade. How do we then overcome these barriers to exporting? What can policymakers do to make exports smooth and easy? Policymakers can implement several strategies to help exporters overcome the common barriers to trade in international trade. These strategies would aim to enhance the exporters' competitiveness, to improve their access to global markets, and to reduce the risk associated with exporting. The first step to overcoming the barriers in exporting is simplifying and regulatory and compliance procedures. Policymakers can work on aligning domestic export regulations with international standards to simplify compliance for exporters. They can also introduce or improve digital customs systems, which can then streamline export documentation, it can reduce delays, and enhance transparency in customs clearance. Number two, reducing tariffs and non-tariff barriers. Policymakers can actively negotiate bilateral and multilateral trade agreements that reduce or eliminate tariffs and non-tariff barriers. This provides exporters with better access into foreign markets. They can also encourage regional trade partnerships such as free trade areas or customs union. In doing this, they can reduce trade restrictions and create a more favorable environment for exporters. Number three is providing financial support. Governments can offer export credit, low interest loans, or guarantees through export credit agencies to help businesses finance their export activities and mitigate their financial risk. They can also provide tax breaks or subsidies or financial grants for export related activities, and this can reduce the cost burden on the exporters, making them more competitive internationally. The fourth step is improving market access and knowledge. Policymakers can establish or strengthen trade promotion agencies to provide market research, export counseling, and information on foreign market conditions, including the legal and regulatory requirements, and providing support programs. These support programs can come in form of trade fairs, business delegations, and export promotion events. This helps exporters connect with potential buyers and partners in target markets. The fifth step is investing in logistics and infrastructure. Government can invest in improving ports, in improving roads, railways, and airports to enhance the efficiency and reliability of transport networks and to reduce the logistic cost for exporters. They can also support initiatives that improve supply chain visibility and diversification, and this can help exporters better manage disruptions in global trade. The sixth step is building capacity through training and skills development. By offering capacity building programs that provide exporters with skills and knowledge needed to navigate in international trade, including customs procedures and compliance and market entry strategies. Exporters are well equipped to play in the export market. They can also facilitate access to trade experts, to mentors, and consultants to provide personalized advice and guidance to new and existing exporters. The seventh step is addressing cultural and language barriers. Policymakers can support programs that help exporters understand cultural differences, preferences, and business practices in target markets. By offering translation or language training for exporters, they can help overcome communication barriers in international negotiations and marketing. The seventh step is mitigating political and economic risk. Governments can provide insurance programs that cover exporters against political risks such as expropriation, contract defaults, or political instability in the target market. Policymakers should maintain consistent trade policies and avoid sudden regulatory changes that could disrupt the exporters' plans. The last step is strengthening intellectual property protection through international IP agreements. By encouraging exporters to register their intellectual property in international markets and supporting global IP agreements, this can protect the exporters against infringement. Offering guidance on intellectual property rights and the protection and the enforcement of these mechanisms in foreign markets can also help exporters safeguard their innovations and their brands. In the next video, that's part 4, we'll talk about enhancing export competitiveness, and this will cover strategies for improving export performance and monitoring and evaluating export policies. Thank you for joining us. Join us in the next video as we move to the last part. That's part 4 of the basic export course for policymakers. See you soon.